Morning and welcome to our Sunday social for today. So we're carrying on with our series about life events, and today we're thinking about weddings and marriage. So the Methodist Church is in a process of considering a report to conference called God in Love Unites Us. Reports to conference are the way that decisions are made about our standing orders or laws or doctrine. So today's Sunday Social is about weddings as an event, but also marriage as an institution and what it means today. I'm going to refer to this part of the report and I'm going to come back to it next week when I'm thinking about the end of a marriage. So today's interview is with a couple who have asked to be married in one of the churches I serve, looking right ahead to 2022 when hopefully there won't be the current restrictions on gathering and so on. So off we go, thinking about marriage and weddings. So today's service is about life events and we're doing marriage and weddings. So Emma and Dan are joining me, who I am delighted to say are looking at getting married in one of the churches I serve next year. It's very, very exciting. So I thought we could start by talking about just a little bit about yourselves, a little bit of background, and then perhaps leading on to why you think you want to get married. Sorry, I didn't mean it to sound like that. Why you want to.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, so we were set up on a blind date by my sister. I've known Emma very vaguely through conversation with Laura, but didn't know much about her. She was known as Riggs, so that's the only kind of terminology that I'd ever got. So yeah, went on the date and kind of just totally relaxed from minute one as soon as she got in the car. Just conversation flowed. There was no awkward silences, and kind of from there we've just gone from strength to strength and just like found my best friend and life partner that I can't go a day without. And even if we spend 2 minutes away from each other, it feels like a lifetime because yes, we kind of joined at the hip.
But, I remember feeling like that. If we think about these days, of course, a lot of people never get married. So what's made you think about getting married?
It was definitely always been like a life goal, and we talked early on about what we wanted out of life because there was no point going further if you don't want the same things. Like I knew I wanted kids, and Dan obviously knew too. So obviously we both wanted kids. We both wanted to get married.
I think as well, like we're both very family orientated, with the families that we've got around us, and those families we've just kind of all joined up as one huge one from day one. Obviously having our little boy as well, that just kind of cemented everything even more. But I know if like we need anything, I can go to Emma's mum and dad and she can come to my mum and dad, and Laura, and I've got Hannah, which is Emma's sister as well. And it's just always been the foundation of we want a family more than anything, and then obviously just progress with each other.
Yeah, and I think because obviously I grew up in church and like knew what marriage was in the Bible and how you both joined together in one, and even like the vows like in sickness and in health. I just think it's like really important to say those vows and like make those promises to each other. It's not just about getting the last name, it's about the commitment and becoming just one unit basically.
It's so much more than just living together until death do you part. It's literally, no matter what kind of life throws at you, you've got that person you can lean on and have utmost respect and everything for, and just kind of go through life, not just each and every day and waking up with each other, but it's a journey. And just constantly taking each day as it comes, and if there are challenges or anything like that, you just get through them.
So we spoke a bit last week when we met about Emma's faith. Do you think that you see marriage differently or the same way when one of you is sort of bringing more of a religious faith into it?
I would say Dan has got a lot more faith since we've like met, and he's seen like me have that faith. Like when in difficult situations, when our son was born and he was taken away, seeing all me needing to do is like prayer. Really was big for Dan to see how much it means to me, and how much just like sharing your worries with God just helps like release like that burden from you. So I think you've definitely become a lot more. I think when we first met, he was like, I believe, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've kind of educated myself a little bit more, and like Emma will teach me a little bit more, and especially a dad, Steve, utmost respect for, and a very, 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 very faithful family. And I think just being around them kind of all the time and going to see them every other day, I just embrace it a little bit more. And like Em said, when Jay wasn't great when he was born, I think when she texted dad and say just say a prayer, I think without that, I'm not obviously sure on the circumstance that would have happened after that, but I think we needed that just to help us through those first difficult kind of few hours, because there might be a time of excitement giving your newborn baby a cuddle, and I think with Jay, seeing him with all little wires coming out of him, oxygen tubes, it wasn't like the image that I think we'd envisioned from the beginning. And I was worrying about Emma as well, because she lost a lot of blood. So I think at that time I was like in two places and trying to keep a calm vibe on everything, to be honest, because I was like, I've got to look out for Em, and if there's a decision that needs to be made, I've got to make that. But I know that no matter what, her mum and dad and my mum and dad would have supported us, because even when you're having your epidural, I rung both families in tears going, look, what do I do? Because I was just seeing the risks. I never saw that, it's going to help her with the pain. And I think, that day, I think my faith was a lot more kind of coming out for definitely.
Me. I would also say, though, he did have like the values that are in the Bible, and that even before he even had the faith, you've always been a good person, and everyone says about how like he's just got like such a like kind heart that like it's not like he needed to learn to become a better person. I think it's more just becoming stronger with your faith and like believing that someone else can help you.
But did you consider at all getting married somewhere other than a church?
No, for me it's just not an option.
That's the right answer.
It's God's house, isn't it?
I think a lot of our like friends that we're aware of, we like spoke to them, they would be, we'll either get married in a church or we'll get married at a venue, and they don't really see kind of the faith that is behind it and what you're vowing, not just to each other, but to
and
God
just
as
to
well.
have God there blessing the marriage, I think is massive. Like that's how I've always been brought up to see it, is you get married in the church, he's there with you, and you know that he is. You don't have to like. If I got married at a venue, I'd be like, well, God's not gonna like move this or want this, when I just always wanted it in a church.
Like you have to, like some people when they say they're getting married in a church, they're not understanding why that's so important. They see it as potentially more of an image of a beautiful place, but those vows they're not really saying in front of their friends and family and God. They're only saying it to each other because of the image that it gives. Whereas that's something that's never crossed our mind. It was always a church, 100%, and it's not just a promise to each other, but it's a promise to God as well.
And that's so clear talking to you, because you when we met together, we met at Crantock, which is the church that you're going to get married in, and I think it's fair to say it's not the prettiest of churches. Methodist churches tend not to be, as ornate, but at the same time, it means that it's the fact of it being a church That's what
Yeah,
matters.
definitely.
And actually, I find that really moving.
Yeah.
You know, there are pretty, really pretty venues, and there are really pretty other churches, but you've got a connection, and we want to celebrate with you.
Well, definitely. I think also because my church found here closed down, I think it was a year ago, just around a year ago. And I would have said if I got married, it would either be in that church or the Crime Top one, because we've come on holiday every year since I was born to Crime Top. Every Sunday we went to the church, like it felt like home, even when it's not the church we went to each week. So I think just having that as well, knowing the church, knowing the community, it's just like it's amazing.
It's definitely your second home, isn't
it?
And it's something that, like, when I first came down to Crantock with them, like, I'd never kind of thought about going abroad in the UK, and it's a quiet little place, and I know it's busy, but it's still very out of the way. I almost, and I said to you, it doesn't feel like you're still in the UK. It's like its own individual bubble. And once you're in there, it's a complete community field. And I know we said that when we spoke the other day. I think what just kind of, as soon as you said, let's get married down, I was like, there was no kind of, should we look for a church up here? It was, not a problem at all. We're doing that.
Oh, this is wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, for doing the interview with me. And we will keep in touch. Looking forward to the big day.
Definitely.
In the sun or rain, my life celebrates. You are good, you are good. With a cry of praise, my heart will proclaim. You are good, you are good. In the sun or rain, my life celebrates. You are good, you are good.
So the God in Love Unites Us report talks about what marriage is. It talks about a wider view of relationships and how we, as the Methodist Church in Great Britain and Ireland, understand being in a relationship and how that's fundamental to being human. We recently celebrated Trinity Sunday, and in the in-person service I talked about not getting too bogged down in heresies about what God is and is not, but rather thinking about the passage in Genesis where it says, we will create humans in our image, plural, because the doctrine of the Trinity is about relationship. So the Methodist Church is asking questions about how we can value relationships that exist in the world around us and what it means to be married. Can a same-sex couple be married in the eyes of God? I think the answer is yes. Conference will consider and vote on this in the summer, and it's possible, and dare I say likely, that we will recognise this as a valid marriage in God's eyes. What this means is that we'll be recognising that in the future of Methodism there is a need to live well with contradictory convictions. So I want to stress now that whatever the conference decides, we are already living with contradictory convictions. But those of us who would be willing to recognise same-sex marriage are not able to do so in a Methodist marriage service currently. Today's interview is not with a same-sex couple, but at some point I hope that I will be able to do the same interview with a same-sex couple, and the questions would be the same. Why marry in church? Emma and Dan spoke so clearly about what it means to them, and I'm honoured to be part of that celebration. So what is marriage? Marriage, as reflected in the Methodist marriage service, is about making vows to each other in the presence of God, and one of the legal requirements is the use of these words. I take you to be my wedded wife or husband, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish from this day forward, until we are parted by death, and this is my solemn vow. So I think these words speak for themselves. We're talking about a commitment that we make, intending it to be for life, and through good times and bad. The institution of marriage is a legal one, and in some ways it's also about commitment. Now, I asked Dan and Emma, why get married at all? So many couples make the same commitment without a ceremony, and part of the God in Love Unites Us report suggests that we recognise the value of these relationships too. But for me, marriage is important, and if a couple are concerned about the commitment and that's what stops them, then it isn't about God being present or not. It's about how they feel about formalising their commitment. We know that today divorce is not the complicated, stigma-loaded process that it perhaps was in the past. So tune in to next week's Sunday Social for more on that. I think there are some misplaced preconceptions that we still hold about marriage. I don't think an unmarried couple are necessarily any less committed to a lifelong relationship or faithfulness to each other. Marriage doesn't guarantee you a happy ending. You need to go into it with a clear understanding of what you both want out of life. Do you both want children, for example? I think that God sees the good in a loving relationship, but ultimately wants us to have the security and commitment of a marriage. A marriage is no less valid in God's eyes if there are no children from it. To say otherwise is hugely hurtful to those who can't or choose not to have children. What about marriage later in life, for example? So let's go back to the question, why get married? And why get married when a civil partnership can achieve the same legal status? I guess the answer is that a marriage, and particularly one in church, offers us a chance to seek God's blessing on that relationship and put our partner at the heart of our future. I can talk myself around in circles about this, because to talk of the value of marriage seems somehow to diminish the value of a not married couple or of a single person. And I don't mean to do that. A sacrament is a Christian rite that is a visible symbol of the reality of God and a channel for God's grace. Methodism would include Holy Communion as a sacrament, but not marriage. However, and I quote, its sacramental nature, the nature of marriage, must be located in the ongoing, lived relationship of the couple, through the celebration of the gifts of creation, the sharing of sorrows and struggles, and the increase of joy and justice. So weddings in Methodist chapels, at least around here, are not frequent. I am much more likely as a Methodist minister to take a funeral than a wedding. In the Church of England, if you want to get married in a parish church, there are regulations and restrictions about connection to that church and its life of worship. The Methodist Church has no such criteria. And that's why I can perform the marriage ceremony for Emma and Dan, although they are not local residents. But I'm absolutely delighted to do so, especially because I know that they are part of a church elsewhere. So the idea of a Christian wedding and marriage may not be the norm today, but I still feel like it has something to offer to the world around us. Any wedding inquiries are more than welcome. So as you journey through perhaps a marriage or single life or living together, God bless you. God bless the love that you share for others. And please be assured of God's love for you.
His face